So, living in Australia, where Madman Entertainment is based, has its advantages. Anime films which are hard to come by in the United States are shown in our mainline cinemas. Not all anime films, unfortunately, but every year more and more attention is paid to the medium which we love so much, and thus I actually have a lot of hope for anime's future in the Western world. But if I had to pick just one film to release this year in Australia, just one of the multitude of anime films like Premiere and the Bunny Girl Senpai movie, there is really only one movie I would have ever have picked. And that is, of course, Violet Evergarden, Eternity in the Auto Memory Doll. Even before the tragedy that befell KyoAni this year, there would have been no doubt in my mind which film I wanted to see the most, and thus, the very first screening I could get to, I was there. Popcorn and drink in hand, sitting in the corner of a nearly empty cinema. I sat there, staring at the screen. All of life's troubles and stresses were forgotten, and only one thought possessed me. Take this in. Breathe it. Live it. And so as the projector flickered on, while the curtains on the edge of the screen drew back, I stared with rapt attention, waiting for what I knew was going to be the most treasured anime experience of the year. And while I'm not wishing to spoil either the film or the review, I can simply say this. If there is such a thing as perfection in a craft, Kyoto Animation may very well be on the road to reaching it. The film follows the story of Isabella York, the adopted daughter of an aristocratic family living in a prestigious all-girls boarding school, the purpose of which is to manufacture women of refinement, ladies of high standing, who will go on to become artists and socialites, with the less talented being married off to men of high standing in order to achieve the same purpose. However, being adopted and not raised from birth in the aristocracy means that Isabella is not well versed in how to be a lady, and given that they are from the kingdom of Drossel, the York family sends for someone of high elegance and refinement, in fact, a friend of Crown Princess Charlotte herself, with a reputation for loyal service and excellence in all academic pursuits, not to mention impeccable etiquette. They send, of course, for our titular character, Violet Evergarden. Through Violet, Isabella grows as a person and learns much about the world as well as about herself, but most of all, she gains the one thing she's never truly had. A friend. And when she broaches this with Violet, it is a moment of clarity because despite being close to her colleagues, it is the first time Violet has ever been called a friend. Even so far as being called sister. A friendship of love for the simple fact of being close with no other conditions or prerequisites. And thus, we have our film. And what a film it is. Just from that small synopsis and my tone reading this should already tell you that the magic that KyoAni infuses into its works is fully present and accounted for. I cried tears of both agonizing tragedy and consummate joy throughout, and all of those tears were well earned. The animation quality, which was already legendary from the Netflix series, was given a film budget, and they used every singular yen. The facial expressions and the body language, the flowing of the characters' hair as they walked, the wind through the leaves and the animation of the background, it was just nuts. It was incredible. Makoto Shinkai is the god of backdrops and environments still, and this is no one can dispute it. But when it comes to animating people, KyoAni has a gift. A true gift. Female characters particularly have always been well animated and well written in their shows, and I would almost guarantee it is because of their policy of hiring as many women as possible. These aren't the archetypes and stereotypes you find throughout our medium, fun though they are. These are depictions of women written by women and animated by women. And the level of love and respect shown these characters is just beyond comparison. Meanwhile, the writing and performances of the cast are equally good. Yui Ishikawa once again absolutely fucking floored me with her depiction of Violet. It was spot on, it was perfect. Her increased emotions coming through the forefront as this takes place after the events of the series, when her emotions have now developed to the point where she can involve herself and become emotional and engage with people. But she's still not all there. Like, there is still the lingering embers of Violet's past self. The other students at the boarding school notice this and, they call her a lady knight. Her dignity and grace through her work as a doll, while exquisite, can't hide her obvious military bearing. She still carries herself very much like an ex-military person. Of course, that's to be expected. And the way this is acted and animated is absolutely fantastic. The other characters, meanwhile, have the same level of quality. Isabella's actress, Minako Kotobuki, is fantastic and really does provide such a wonderful and complex foil to Violet. It never ceases to amaze me how Japanese seiyuu can inject so much passion into their beautiful language. It's a little off topic, but if you want to see a perfect example of this, go and watch the Star Wars prequels properly. Watch them in Japanese with English subs. Trust me, all respect to the cast of the prequels with Ewan McGregor and Ian McDiarmid specifically. I mean, Hayden Christensen didn't too bad, but he just got shitty dialogue. The melodrama and cheesiness in Star Wars is brought out so well in Japanese. It's overacted and hyped up, and you would almost think you're watching a live action anime. It's great.
裏切りを仕向けたな。お前自身が招いたのだ。歯止めは僕のものだ。お前の怒りと力への渇望が破滅を招いた。
And this isn't unique either. Like, watch The Lion King in German. Okay, you watch The Lion King in German. Trust me, Scar is so much better. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Let's get back to it. The writing in this film, well, look, if you've seen the series, you know what to expect. It's the perfect cocktail for tearing your heart out and then putting it back in with more than you knew you had. Like, they pull your heart out, add onto it, and then stuff it back in. For all my experience and accolades for command of language, because I was like the honor student in English studies and history when I was in high school, fuck, I don't think I could come anywhere near the beauty of this story. I really don't. It has a touch of magic only Violet Evergarden really has. Both Kana Akatsuki, and Reiko Yoshida deserve all the praise in the world for what they've given us. And if this is anything to go by, the film coming out next year will be even better. As for the music, Evan Cole has worked his magic again. Like, this score is just incredible. Like, it's sublime. It's fantastic. The favorites from the series, like all the great themes and sounds from the series, are all still here, and they're used to great effect, while the original film score adds lovely variations on those themes, as well as a couple of original songs. And yeah, like I said, they wrench your heart out and then lift you up at the same time. Honestly, like, Violet Evergarden has the best original soundtrack since Girls on Panzer. And considering it's got competition like Zombieland Saga, or the masterpiece that is Princess Principal, which was scored by Yuki fucking Kajira. Like, Yuki Kajira is a goddess. So please understand that this is not a statement I make lightly in saying that Violet's soundtrack is just... ugh. However, I have to say that Evan was almost upstaged at the last minute, because the ending song, Amy, was just... ugh. Look, it's playing in the background right now. I'm going to put it in the music. I'm going to put it in the music of this video right now as I'm talking. Just... ugh. It's fucking amazing. But I must confess that I am biased because it was sung by none other than Minori Chihara. My favorite, absolute favorite tertiary adjunct to the integrated data thought entity, otherwise known as Yuki Nagato. Her voice is just magic to hear, and to see her carrying on music after doing Mishirube for the original ending of Violet, as well as playing Erika in the Auto Memory Doll Company. And she's basically in all of KyoAni's works. I'm just so happy to see her carrying on and still working on these projects, because Oh, I love Nagato. I love Minori Chihara so much. You know, all in all, like when you take in like the animation and the music and just the direction, and there is one particular scene regarding a ballroom dance in which Violet is given a very unique dress and she dances with Isabella for the school ball because it's a girls' boarding school, there's no men allowed. Just that whole scene, that whole sequence, just watch out for it. You need to see it. It's just the most beautiful sequence I've ever seen KyoAni do, and again, that's not a statement I make lightly. But I'll be honest, Violet Evergarden really does hold a special place in my heart. From the moment I first saw it, I have been entranced by it to an extent that despite all my years watching anime, it was in my top 10 the moment the curtain fell on episode 9. My most successful video to date, which leads into this one, which is a veteran's reaction to Violet Evergarden. Rewatching that again with the full context behind her feelings and having someone who's experienced them relate them to me and explain them to me, like, I've watched it so many times. Violet Evergarden, like, I don't see a point in doing a full review because it was very clear in my actual reaction video with my friend and of course this video here that there is no objectivity here. Any chance of me being objective on this review is completely gone. Violet Evergarden is just... oh. So I'll overlook any tiny flaws that you see, but really the only flaw I have is that there wasn't enough of it, literally. And that's because the film was only an hour and a half long, and so we didn't get much input from the supporting cast, like Hodgkins and Katya and Erika and Iris. They didn't get much screen time compared to the other characters. But given that the time frame that this show takes place in after the show and the original series, and how sort of it goes forward in time a bit, can't say too much, spoilerific, it's nice to see how they've developed and changed over time, and how society has developed and changed over time with them. It's supposed to be, I think, a bridge between the upcoming movie later next year and the original season, so it's sort of bridging that time gap, so it's great. Oh man, like, this story was just beautiful. The absolutely beautiful story, made up for any flaws that there could possibly be. And when the other members of the cast come in, like when the other characters come in, who I can't mention for spoiler reasons, it just gives us this so powerful, heart-rending story with such a cathartic, emotional punch. It just makes up for any criticisms I could have. Normally, this is the part where we give a rating and I tell you all about the concluding statements and the summary, but instead, if you want a reason why you should watch this, I can sum it up by telling you this. As the film ended and the credits rolled, I just sat there. I had tears in my eyes left over from the ending, and I was watching the credits. While they translated the film into English, they hadn't translated the credits, and I can't read kanji, so I don't know what any of these say. And yet I was sitting there, waiting. I was listening to the beautiful ending song echoing through this auditorium, which was rapidly emptying. And eventually I was the only one still there. And there it was. I couldn't read kanji, but I know what a list of names looks like when I see one. And I knew whose names they were. And I knew that what I just watched was the last work any of them would ever gift us with. And there I sat. I wouldn't leave. I decided not to stand until the credits had ended. It felt like I had to. Perhaps these symbolic acts are meaningless, and if you don't like Violet Evergarden, you aren't going to watch this film, but I beg of anyone who watches this who hasn't seen the series, watch it. Even if it's not your thing, watch it. I consider it akin to 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's so technically and historically significant. Not to mention how beautiful it is. That it's almost a duty that you see it. And for those of you who love Violet Evergarden, I hope you will treasure this film as much as I did. See you next time, guys.